Hi, this is Eve Gaddy, and
Julia Justice.
we're trying another live broadcast. And we're still novices, so it might be not quite what we want it to be yet. Julia and I'm going to call her Janet half the time because her pen name is Julia and her other name is Janet, and I know her as Janet.
My legal name.
But we were going to talk about fiction and reality and how we can utilize real life events in our books, or as Julia will talk about, since she does historical, utilizing the emotions that those real life events bring about. So, Julia, do you want to start?
We actually got the idea to doing this because, and I'll let Eve describe more of this for you, but we were talking about doing something a week or so ago, and we've had lots of really heavy rain around here, and a humongous tree fell in her front yard.
My 75-foot tall oak tree fell over, just fell over. And I thought that there was a way I could put a picture on there or post a picture, but I don't think there is. Anyway, it was awful because it was a really pretty tree and, great big and all. And I haven't figured out what I'm going to use that for. What?
Said fortunately fell sideways and not backwards on your.
Yeah, it fell sideways, so it didn't hurt us and it didn't hit our house, which is really good because our stupid blah 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 bad word insurance will not cover it. Will not cover it. Yeah, because it's water. So that doesn't make us happy, I must say, because it's not cheap. Because we had to do first you have to get the guys out to saw up the tree and take it away, and then get the stump out, and then we had to do the sidewalk got broken. And so we had to get
more importantly, your plumbing was out and you had no water.
Oh yeah. Well, shortly before that, that was the tree. The tree also messed up our main water line so that we had to turn it off and had no water, and also messed up the sprinkler. So we had to get all that stuff fixed, which was not very fun. But yes, we really weren't without water long. The plumbers came the next day. But at any rate, my point is there ought to be something in there I can use.
Maybe you can have it sometime.
But I'll let Janet talk some.
One other thing you mentioned that you hadn't reported yet was when the tree fell, it blocked your driveway. So you actually had to rent a car to go anywhere because
that's true.
Couldn't get out of your driveway. So I can see having your hero and heroine who are stuck together and don't really like each other at the beginning of the book, say in some mountain cabin somewhere where you can't just call up and get a car, and be stranded there together because the tree falls down and blocks the road in and out. So, yeah.
That's a good idea. He always has these good ideas.
Yeah, like Eve and I were talking about earlier, there are lots of little things that can happen that as a contemporary writer you can kind of remember and pull into a story. Thing that occurs most easily to me, we had a trip last spring where we were going overseas, and our routing ended up being through 3 different airports with like 5 hours layover in one and 4 hours layover in another. So it was like more than 24 hours worth of traveling. But you layer in some lost luggage and some other stuff, and you could have a hero or a heroine arrive at a first meeting or some sort of thing in kind of not a very good mood. And so many people have experienced stuff like that. It would be real easy to take something like that and make it a funny situation and sort of a ironic and funny at the same time. But obviously writing historicals, that sort of an experience doesn't translate into what I write because, no airplanes and so forth. So I think more
boats.
Well, yeah, but not to the same extent. So a lot of the because often there are historical events that figure at least tangentially in the book, but some things are sort of universal. If you're talking about Peninsular War or Waterloo, the idea of having somebody that you love in danger or wounded or come back wounded and be different, sort of PTSD, was certainly happened a great deal in previous wars. They didn't really have a name for this stuff, but human emotions are the same. So that sort of thing you can use in an historical that translates from modern times. But I think a lot of times what we do is whatever the event is, sometimes we've experienced it or something like it ourselves. And a lot of times we just want to try to put ourselves into that position and try to think, okay, how would I feel if that happened to me? Because I think probably the most important thing, character is important, but I think plot is important, but the emotional response of our characters, the more that we can convey an emotional response that our readers can relate to, the more they will identify with their characters and become invested in the book.
Well, I think part of characterization too is being able to feel those emotions yourself. So even though some of those bad things, I write bad things happen, and so you might not, as Janet said, that you might not have experienced it, but you have experienced very sad things and very upsetting things and things like that. But, to me, and I know to Julia and to actually all my writer friends, our characters are real to us. So I know that sounds crazy, but they are. And so in a way, they take over. I mean, when you put yourself into the book or into the world that is the book, then, you're not writing as you're writing as that character. So therefore, if it's a guy, I can write what the guy thinks or feels or says or whatever. And same with the women.
I had a thing with the book I'm working on now. It's the series. It's a 3-book called The Splendid Spinsters. And they're all women who are in the Regency or very late Regency, fortunate enough to have been given some sort of a bequest by a relative. So they're not forced to marry, because at that time, pretty much the only thing, if you were a genteel lady, the only thing you could do was marry. There was no other than
be a governess, couldn't you?
Right, but that wasn't, you didn't have an independent life. In order to have your own household and to be able to have your own life and a family and all that, you pretty much were forced to marry. That was really the only option you had. And so all three of these girls, because they have some money, have a little more option than an ordinary girl would, because they can choose to not marry and yet not end up as a governess or someone's companion or in the workhouse, which is what would have happened to somebody who had no money. So they're all a little bit more choosy. And the first one, Emma, she's sort of the ugly duckling sister of a really beautiful older sister who was dazzling and snagged the younger son of the Duke, and of a mother who was dazzling. And so her whole life, she's sort of been kind of pitied by her sister and despaired of by her mother, because, what's going to happen to her? She's not going to be pretty enough to catch a husband, or not pretty enough to catch a good husband or a desirable husband. And her parents don't have the best marriage anyway. So she's decided that she probably couldn't really, the kind of guy that attracts her is probably not going to be someone who would be faithful to her. And so she just wants none of it. So, of course, the guy that she really is attracted to, but doesn't want to have anything to do with, is a very handsome charmer who's a ladies' man. And he also has money, so he doesn't have to marry. And so she really starts out by, and she pretty much keeps men in particular at arm's length, because she's very smart and she has a very acerbic wit. And so she kind of keeps them at a distance because not nice to them. And so on their first meeting with Lord Theo, she actually really embarrasses him, because this is in the book that's coming out in March, Temper's book, the second of the Scandal Sisters. Temper's gorgeous, and so Lord Theo's kind of making up to Temper, and plain old Emma is Temper's friend. And so when they meet, Temper's saying, "Oh, I'm sure you must. Do you know Miss Henley?" Or I'm sure you remember Miss Henley. And he's going, "Oh, yes, yes, of course." And so Emma says, "Yes, we danced together at, the Devonshire's ball." And he goes, "Yes, and you're such a good dancer." And then she goes, "Actually, we met at a dinner at some other place." So she really is kind of like called him out on the spot because he did not remember her and did not want to. So it kind of started from.
I remembered her after that.
Pardon?
I bet he remembered her after that comment.
Well, but and she also is completely unresponsive. I mean, he's very charming, and all of the ladies, even if they're not, even the married ones, at least like to flirt with him. And she's just like, she has none of it. So initially he's kind of intrigued by that because she doesn't respond. And also he really initially wants to just kind of talk with her to get one back because she got him the first time. So he wants to even the score. But as they see each other, because she's very bright and she sees things and she calls them what they are, which most people don't do. So he becomes kind of a friend of hers, and he likes baiting her because he never knows what she's going to say. So at any rate, this is all. Eve is used to my very long build-ups to a short answer, very long answer.
Short answer.
I can't summarize anything. But anyway, this actually happened late last summer. I went on vacation with my brother and sister, a little siblings retreat with our spouses. And so I was sitting in the back seat while someone else was driving, and I can't remember, I think we were going to dinner or something, and was thinking about the book, and this scene just kind of popped into my head where I think more so, in many ways, a woman's face is still her fortune, but in the time period I write, it really was, since marriage was your only option. And if you were sort of plain and not all that attractive, it immediately limited your options because
unless you had a lot of money.
Well, unless you had a lot of money, yes. But if you have a modest amount of money and are not very pretty, your options for marriage are limited. So she's always been made to feel this, and she has always been made to feel that she's really too plain, especially maybe not for an intelligent man, but she hasn't met one yet. But certainly for someone like Lord Theo, who's not known for being there's fidelity in it.
Remember in Georgette Heyer, the one, it was with Drusilla. Do you remember that one?
Well, I think my favorite Georgette Heyer is the one, and I'm trying to remember now the name.
This Drusilla, and Theo was the bad guy, and I don't remember his name. Do you remember that?
Yeah, but the one I'm thinking of is where Adam, the handsome guy who's going to marry his beautiful sweetheart, comes home to his ruined estate and ends up marrying the sort of plump, not very well-spoken daughter of the Cid.
Convenient Marriage? I hated it.
No, not the Convenient Marriage. But through the course of the book, he finally comes to maybe not.
A Civil Contract. I didn't like that. Contract. I did not like that one. I mean, it was like, ew. That was like the only one of those that I did not like.
Well,
it didn't end up like I wanted it to. And speaking of that, I'm one of those people that, to me, if it doesn't end up happy, or at least somewhat happy,
looking like it's going to be happy.
Yeah, like it looks like they're getting along or whatever. To me, it's not a romance if it's
right.
Not,
absolutely,
it doesn't end that way. And that's why some of those Nicholas Sparks book and stuff.
Right.
They to me, they're not a romance. That's not a romance. That's tragedy. When they die or whatever.
Yes. Back to my using in the backseat of the car while we're driving. So there's a scene. Lord Theo doesn't. He's always sort of. He has money. He doesn't have to do anything, but he's sort of feeling like he kind of is lacking a purpose in life. And Emma has found one for her. She's going to help girls from the school that a friend runs to find positions. But they have this one exchange, which is what came to me, and he's telling her she's pretty, and she actually slaps him because she thinks he's making fun of her, because she's been told for so long that she's, you know, she's
that came into your mind when you were sitting in the back seat?
Yes. But and so she,
of course, we're thinking about the book instead of what we're actually doing.
yeah, well, no, I'm not driving, so I can think about my book while I'm sitting in the back. But and so she's really angry because she thinks he's making fun of her, and it's obviously a very sore point. And then he turns around and says, "You can't tell me what I think is pretty." And then he tells her what about her attracts him, that she has this, she doesn't have a traditionally pretty face, but she's becomes really animated when she talks about something that she loves, and she has these glorious eyes, and there's just a sense of energy and dynamism about her that he finds very attractive. And he said, "You don't get to tell me what I find attractive." And it's the first time someone's ever told her that she can be thought of as attractive as a woman for something other than being pretty, which at the time that she lives in is
right,
very, very different and very important. And I think even today, although women have so many more options, it's still true that a very handsome guy or a very beautiful woman has a kind of power that people who don't have that physical attractiveness don't possess. Sometimes it's
on the internet. They have a bunch of things like celebrities with, you know, beautiful celebrities with ugly spouses and stuff. That's always interesting.
I think that whether you're really beautiful or not, that idea of how controlling, how important a factor beauty is something that people today can relate to as much as they did back in the time that I write about, even though it was a much more decisive factor then than it is now. So things like that, I think, they cross cultures and cross time, and that sort of thing. I know when I write a scene like that, I'm feeling the emotions that the characters are feeling, and you just hope that somehow you can put together the words that will get that.
You are the character, though.
Yes, but feeling it and conveying it can be two different things. You've got to somehow come up with the words and the expressions for your characters that can translate what you feel into words that will make them
kind of do that themselves.
Oh. Excuse me.
Don't they kind of do that themselves? I mean, my people do.
I know, but I don't know that they always find the right words. So what I want to do is I want the reader to be able to feel what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think I do that more successfully than others. So I get to blame it on the character. It's not my fault that the reader didn't get that. The characters
talk. And sometimes they don't. You have to sit them down and say, "Look, you're going to have to answer me." And they're like, "No, I don't."
I know.
And you smack. Yes, you do. You're not getting out of here until you talk.
So can you think of any
things too?
actual events that you've turned into books?
Huh?
Can you think of any actual events that you've turned into books?
Well, I can think of actual events that I put in books. Like one day I was sitting in my office, and I think I was working, and
not playing a game on your computer?
No, I was on the computer, of course, but working, I think. At any rate, my bedroom's across the hall, and my husband was in there taking a nap, and the door was open and everything. And all of a sudden, water came pouring out of the light fixture that's right above the bed, just absolutely pouring everywhere. And we were like, So it was a water heater. And so I put that in a book somewhere. And then I put excuse me, sorry. Okay, that's my son. Hold on. You talk, Janet.
All right. So I think that one of the things that I like that's helpful if I have reviews is readers who can tell me whether I've achieved that goal or not. That ability to translate what the characters are feeling onto a page in words that they are able to understand and feel that too. Because as a writer, you want the emotional journey that your characters take. You want your readers to have that journey too, and you hope that it's one where they go through the ups and downs with the character, will make that happy ending at the end so much more satisfying. That's what we all go for. I think for me, the thing that a lot of times, although romance fiction gets a bad rap a lot of times as being unrealistic or escapist, or and literary fiction is somehow supposed to be so much better. I think that a lot of times the themes that are explored are the same. They're how do you deal with emotions? How do you find your place in the world? How do you find where you fit in and the people? Yeah, you're back.
Yes.
In literary fiction, like Eve was saying, to me they seem to kind of focus on the bad stuff of life. Or in romance fiction, we want to celebrate the good things in life that end up with
have bad things happen. You gotta have bad things happen.
No, but that's not the focus. It's not.
Well, sometimes the focus is overcoming whatever the bad thing was.
Well, I think the focus is always overcoming whatever the bad stuff was.
Well, that's true. But anyway, I used that, and then we've had so many leaks. Everything we've had that's upstairs has leaked. Everything. I mean,
you need a story.
Toilets, showers, 2 water heaters, air conditioners. I mean, everything. Never have a 2-story house. I was
going to say, you need a ranch. You need to go buy yourself a ranch.
Well, yeah. Well, unfortunately, we're not moving anytime soon. So there you go. Well, I should probably go since my son just got here and I had to go let him in the house.
Oh, boy.
Because, of course, he never has a key.
Yes, you have a family birthday to celebrate today. So.
Yes, I do. It's my husband's birthday, so I got to go see about that. But anyway, this was fun. And we will both post it on our pages, and we will talk to y'all later.
Gave you a little insight into what writers try to make out of everyday events.
Okay.